Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today, we begin our lesson with understanding the basic characteristic of life, which is reproduction. So, before we get started, we must have a clear understanding of the concept of reproduction and its types across organisms. Okay, every organism on Earth has a biological role to cater. They reproduce, they grow, develop, and become physiologically mature to give birth to new individuals. With the term physiologically mature, we mean that every organism must attain certain internal maturity, internal structural, morphological, hormonal maturity in order to give birth to new individuals. Reproduction is the biological process of formation of new offsprings from the pre-existing organism. All right. So, uh, if the term seems new to you, okay, so I have written down the word meanings in the bottom of the screen. Therefore, the process of reproduction ensures continuity of species. It ensures the perpetuation of life, generations after generations. As older individuals undergo senescence, that means they eventually undergo deterioration and ultimately die. The term lifespan denotes the duration of time that an organism has lived. It is the time period, it is a very estimated time period from the birth of an organism to natural death. So you can say that lifespan is the time period for which the organism has lived, right? So when we go ahead with the chapter, you will come across the term life cycle also, and you should not be confused with the two words. Lifespan is the time period for which the organism has lived, okay, and life cycle includes all the stages of development that the organism goes through during the life of the organism. All right, now if you have a clear look at the table given over here, you can see that a parrot estimated lifespan is 140 years, but that of an elephant is 65 years. Okay, so we can understand that the lifespan of an individual does not depend upon the size of the organism. All right, because it does not mean that an organism is large in size, so it is expected to live more. It is nothing like that. Okay, in fact it is determined by its species and genetic makeup. For example, a mayfly might have a lifespan for a single day, but banyan trees, they are known to survive for 1,000 years. The lifespan of an individual can be broadly divided into three major phases. The juvenile or vegetative phase. The term vegetative is used mostly with respect to plants. The reproductive phase and the senescent phase. During the juvenile or the vegetative phase, it is the period of growth and development after birth and before reaching the maturing or the reproductive phase. It is the juvenile or vegetative phase during which the individual grows in size, grows structurally, morphologically. It attains that maturity. It progresses towards reaching reproductive maturity. Next, once it has achieved reproductive maturity, it is capable of reproduction. It enters the reproductive phase. It is during this phase when the organism is capable of reproduction. After which, eventually, as the years pass, it enters the senescent phase. This phase marks the beginning of aging and decline. Every organism that lives has to go through this cycle and finally eventually die. In this chapter, we are basically going to focus on the reproductive phase. Okay, the reproductive phase is the period in an organism's life when it is capable of producing offspring. This phase is essential for the continuation of species. allowing for the propagation of genes, allowing for the transfer of genes, transfer of genetic information from the parent to the offspring, and maintenance of biodiversity. All the living things that we see around us, all the microorganisms, the flora and the fauna that we see around us, is only because of reproduction. Okay, the perpetuation of species, the life that we see around us. In this large diversity of the biological world, each organism has evolved its own mechanism to multiply and produce offspring. The organism's habitat, its internal physiology, and several other factors are collectively responsible for how an organism reproduces. Its internal physiology, that means its internal structural organization, is responsible. Is it structurally developed to give birth to young ones, or is it structurally developed to lay eggs? So that depends upon the internal physiology of the organism. Depending upon the participation of one organism or two, reproduction can be broadly classified into two types: asexual and sexual reproduction. Over here in asexual reproduction, you can see that there is the participation of a single cell over here, or the parent cell. Okay. And on the other side, in sexual reproduction, you can see that there is the involvement of two cells marked over here, the two parent cells. Okay. And if you closely observe, you can see that the both parent cells have been drawn differently. Over here, there is a pink dot, and over here, there is a blue dot marking that this is the female parent and this is the male parent. Okay, so you need two parents of the opposite sex in order to conduct sexual reproduction. Okay, in asexual reproduction, another thing to point is that there is no exchange and fusion of information, which is prevalent in sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, the term exchange and fusion has been marked in the diagram. We will study in detail what this exactly means. Okay, when offspring is produced by a single parent, with or without the formation of gametes, the kind of reproduction is called asexual. Over here, you can see that there is the involvement of a single parent. There is one parent cell, and this parent cell is growing in size. Okay, it is growing in size, and its organelles as well are dividing to be distributed in both the cells. Okay, they are dividing to be distributed in both the cells equally. Okay, so as you can see, the growth in size of the parent cell is accompanied with creating a furrow or creating a cleavage over here. Okay, so you can, and eventually what happens is that the two cells are ready to be split. ठीक है, मतलब the baby cell or the daughter cell which is being produced, it eventually it pinches off from the parent cell. So in case of asexual reproduction, both cytokinesis, that means division of the cytoplasm, as well as division of the nucleus, that means the karyokinesis, is occurring, but there is no formation of gametes. There is no exchange of information. It is not that the two cells are exchanging any kind of an information, exchanging any sort of genes, nothing. It is just that the organelles with the cytoplasm has been divided between the two cells, between the parent cell and the offspring cell, the daughter cell. Versus in sexual reproduction, all right, the offspring is produced by the involvement of two cells, two parents of the opposite sex, and these cells have to produce their respective gametes, and the gametes undergo meiosis. They undergo meiosis, which essentially we know it involves the exchange of genetic information. Recombination happens. Genetic information of the maternal cell and the paternal cell are exchanged, and fusion of the two gametes happens. That means mother's gametic cell haploid and the father's gametic cell haploid, they fuse, okay, to restore the diploid condition. To restore the diploid condition. All right. This exchange has been marked with a cross over here in the diagram. So, once again, the offspring is produced by the involvement of two parents of opposite sex with the formation and the fusion of gametes. The kind of reproduction is called sexual. So here I have enlisted the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction. Okay, asexual reproduction, like we saw, that it is uniparental. That means only one parent is involved. But in sexual reproduction, it is biparental. That means there is an involvement of two parents of the opposite sex. Asexual reproduction does not require the production of reproductive organs. Obviously, if you have no need of producing any gametic cells, then why produce the reproductive organs? But sexual reproduction, we saw that the gametes were involved. Okay, there was a fusion of the gametic cells. There is a fusion of gametic cells. So, production of gametes is needed. You have to produce the gametes, for which production of reproductive organs is a prerequisite. Okay. In asexual reproduction, if there is no formation of gametic cells, then obviously fertilization does not occur. If fertilization does not occur, the formation of zygote does not take place. But in sexual reproduction, fertilization results in the formation of the diploid zygote. It is the first cell of fertilization, the first product of fertilization. Okay. Asexual reproduction may meiosis does not occur at any time during the process, but in case of sexual reproduction, exchange of the genetic information, that means meiosis does occur, and it is a very fundamental to a fundamental concept of sexual reproduction. Meiosis occurs during the process of reproduction. All right. New individuals, in case of asexual reproduction, they are genetically similar to the parents. Obviously, if there is no exchange of genetic information between the maternal and the paternal cell, there is no meiosis, there is no recombination, then new individuals will be exactly genetically, morphologically similar. They will be the Xerox copies of the parent. Okay, it does not introduce any variability, any variation. Versus sexual reproduction, because it involves meiosis, it involves crossing over of information, it involves recombinations of new characters in the offspring. So the individuals are genetically different from either of the two parents. You are a product of sexual reproduction, and because of which you have inherited some characteristics from your mother, some characteristics from your father, but that does not mean that you are an exact copy of either of them. Okay, you have an intermixing of both the characters which you have inherited from your parents. So it introduces variability, it introduces variation. A good example of asexual reproduction can be seen in yeast. Their process of asexual reproduction is called budding. You can see here that this is the parent cell, and it is fully grown in size, and it has attained its maturity to do reproduction. Okay, so it starts pinching out some cytoplasm. It starts pinching out some cytoplasm, and the nucleus, this darkly colored nucleus, is also ready to be split between the two cells, the newly formed cell, the daughter cell, and the parent cell. Okay. Eventually, this newly formed cell grows in size. It accommodates a new nucleus. It accommodates a new vacuole, some starch granules, okay, and a good amount of cytoplasm. And it starts to grow in size. And this new individual is called the bud. Okay, so we can see over here that the bud is exactly genetically, morphologically similar to the parent cell, and this is the characteristic of asexual reproduction. In asexual mode of reproduction, a single parent is capable of producing an offspring. This kind of reproduction is followed usually by organisms with relatively simple organization, simple structure. It does not involve the formation or fusion of gametes. Offsprings produced are morphologically and genetically similar to each other and to the parent. That means that all the daughter cells are similar to each other as well as their parent. And these offsprings are called clones. Now, with asexual reproduction comes its advantages and disadvantages. The first advantage is its simplicity and ease. Requiring only one parent, the process is much simpler as it eliminates any complex mating requirements. Okay, there is no need of producing gametes, so there is no complex requirement, no need for two parents being involved. It is simple and easy. Because the process is simple and easy, the process of multiplication is rapid, it is quick. Okay, energy efficient. No need of formation or fusion of gametes makes the process less energy expensive. The parent cell is not spending energy on production of gametes, on crossing over, recombination of information, nothing. Okay, rapid colonization. Asexual reproduction allows for rapid establishment of the population. Obviously, because the process, the multiplication is so rapid and quick, and you get a large population from asexual reproduction, the colonization is rapid. Due to the lack of meiosis, this point is important. Due to the lack of meiosis, the offsprings produced will have the same advantageous traits as the parent. If the parent cell is, or the parent organism is having characteristics, is having suitable adaptations to thrive, sustain in a particular environment, it is most likely that the offspring will also survive in that environment. All right. The disadvantages, however, are overcrowding. Obviously, because the process of asexual reproduction is so rapid, it is so quick, okay, it can potentially exceed the carrying capacity of the environment, exceed the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity means it is the maximum population size that an environment can sustain. Okay, sustain, that means the environment can provide for that particular population. With asexual reproduction, the chances of overcrowding are very high, so it can lead to resource scarcity. Lack of genetic variation, very important. Offsprings, because they are clones of their parent, meaning they inherit all the traits of their parent, in, including any harmful mutations, any harmful mutation which the parent cell has got, it is inherited by the offspring as well. Lack of genetic variation. Number three, increased vulnerability to diseases. Since all individuals in the population are genetically identical, a disease that affects one individual can wipe out the entire population. The entire population can be affected by it, obviously, because you are inheriting all the characteristics of the parent, and you are exactly similar to your siblings as well, to the other daughter cells as well. So if one daughter cell is affected, it is most likely the other daughter cells, the other daughter organisms are also affected. Long term evolutionary drawbacks. If there is no genetic variation, there is no long term evolutionary adaptation as well. Okay, we will later on study ahead in the coming chapters that variation is the key of survival. Variation ensures that you survive through generations, your adaptation through generations to come. Okay, and if there is a lack of this variation, your long term adaptation is hindered. Susceptibility to unfavorable mutations. Once again, the disadvantageous mutations which have been persistent in the parents will be passed down to the offspring as well, because there is no chance of recombination to correct them. No meiosis occurs, so there is a no chance that these mutations will be corrected. So this was a short video where we have studied about reproduction, its reproduction introduction, and what is lifespan. Then we studied about the two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Okay. And in the upcoming videos, we will study the different types of asexual reproduction. So if you have any doubts, any questions, any suggestions, please do leave it down in the comment section. Thank you. Bye bye.